Somewhere along the way, many people were quietly told that the years after 50 are for slowing down, not building, that the season for meaningful income has already passed. But here's the truth most never hear. The years after retirement are often the first time you finally have the patience, clarity, and emotional steadiness that real wealth requires. Gardening, when done intentionally, isn't about rushing, grinding, or chasing trends. It's about ownership you can touch, rhythms you control, and growth that answers only to time. This isn't hustle culture in work gloves. It's quiet leverage. It's choosing dignity over noise, independence over dependency, and legacy over impulse. The plants we're talking about today don't go viral on social media, and that's exactly why buyers trust them. While others chase attention, these plants quietly move money behind the scenes, where serious opportunity tends to live. And 2026 isn't just another year on the calendar. It's a pressure point. The US population is aging faster than ever, local supply chains are tightening, and buyers are actively looking for smaller, dependable growers instead of massive operations that can't adapt quickly. Climate uncertainty has made reliability more valuable than volume, and the wellness economy continues to reward consistency over flash. This is why plants deserve to be viewed as assets, not weekend projects. Some of what you'll see grows in months, others take years, but patience is no longer a weakness here. It's leverage. By the time we reach the end, you'll understand which plants match long-term stability and why one overlooked option is already within reach for many people over 60, without adding stress or strain. Welcome to Golden Garden Days. I'm Elias Rowan. I've spent years behind the scenes in agriculture, watching what actually works once the excitement fades. I'm not here to sell shortcuts or big promises. This space is for calm, steady progress that respects your body, your time, and your experience. If you're here, you're not late to anything. You're early to a quieter kind of opportunity that values observation over speed and wisdom over hype. As we move forward, I want you to think about what kind of income would feel right at this stage of life. Something predictable, manageable, and built without pressure. After 50, the biggest obstacle usually isn't space, soil, or even money. It's urgency. That uncomfortable feeling that time is running out and every decision has to work immediately. High-value plants don't respond well to that mindset. They respond to consistency, attention, and patience, strengths that tend to grow with age. This approach takes into account real concerns like limited energy, joint pain, fixed incomes, and the need for reliability. The goal isn't to push harder. It's to align with where you are now. These plants were chosen because they work with aging, not against it. And when that pressure lifts, the garden stops feeling like another obligation and starts feeling like something far more powerful. Control. Plant 1. Elderberry. Low-touch, high-demand foundation. Plant. Elderberry is one of those plants that rarely makes headlines, yet it moves quietly through some of the most reliable buyer networks in the United States. Small food processors, syrup makers, herbal brands, and regional wellness companies are actively looking for domestic sources because imported supply has become inconsistent and harder to verify. What they value most isn't scale. It's clean growing practices, predictable quality, and growers who can deliver the same thing year after year. From a pricing standpoint, elderberry offers clarity without exaggeration. In current US markets moving into 2026, dried elderberries commonly sell in the range of $12 to $25 per pound when sourced locally and handled well. Frozen berries, often preferred by processors who want year-round supply, typically move between $4 and $8 per pound in bulk. Fresh berries sold directly to small processors can bring $6 to $10 per pound during harvest season. Many seniors overlook one quiet income stream here as well. Elderberry cuttings and starter plants, which often sell for $5 to $15 each in local and regional markets. What makes elderberry especially suitable after 50 is how forgiving it is. Once established, it doesn't demand daily care, and its harvest window stretches long enough that missing a perfect moment doesn't ruin the crop. This plant doesn't punish slower pacing or inconsistent energy. It settles in, grows steadily, and lets you work around your body instead of the other way around. Most successful growers don't start big. They begin with a manageable planting, learn the harvest rhythm, then move into repeat sales with the same buyers each season. That's where stability shows up. Elderberry doesn't rush you, doesn't pressure you, and doesn't require constant reinvention. It grows at a pace that feels steady, and for many people at this stage of life, that's exactly the kind of foundation worth building on. This is a plant almost no one associates with gardening, yet it's quietly purchased every year by industries most home growers never think about. Basket willow isn't grown for food or wellness shelves. It's grown for restoration projects, erosion control, natural fencing, green construction, and even municipal land management. When highways are stabilized, wetlands repaired, or riverbanks reinforced, willow cuttings are often part of the solution, and those contracts rarely go to massive farms. Large operations struggle with willow because buyers don't want anonymous volume. They want regional genetics, predictable quality, and growers who can deliver fresh, living material on schedule. That's where small, independent growers shine. A senior with a modest plot can grow uniform, healthy rods that meet specs better than a distant supplier shipping stress material across the country. Buyers remember reliability, and once you're in, they tend to reorder every season. From a pricing standpoint, this plant works differently than berries or herbs. Willow rods and live stakes are often sold per piece, not by weight. In many US regional markets, straight basket willow rods commonly sell for $1 to $3 each in bulk, with higher prices for specialty lengths or pre-sorted bundles. Live stakes for restoration projects can bring similar pricing, especially when sourced locally for compliance reasons. It adds up quietly when you're harvesting hundreds or thousands from a small managed area. Willow is also physically forgiving. It thrives in raised beds or narrow rows, can be coppiced at waist height, and doesn't require daily attention. Many growers tend it part-time, cutting once a year and letting it rest. There's something deeply satisfying about growing a plant that supports infrastructure you'll never see advertised. One that does real work without asking for constant care. This is invisible income, rooted in usefulness, not hype. Hazelnut is not a plant you grow for quick wins. It's a plant you grow because you're thinking beyond the next season, maybe even beyond yourself. Once established, hazelnut becomes a long-lived perennial system that can keep producing for decades, often increasing in value as the years pass. That alone changes how many people over 50 relate to it. You're not just planting for income, you're planting permanence. What makes hazelnut powerful is how it quietly reshapes land. A small orchard signals long-term stewardship, and that matters in real estate and inheritance planning. Productive perennial plantings often raise property value, especially as more buyers look for land that already does something. A managed hazelnut planting can be an asset on paper as well as in practice, something that can be passed down, sold as a working system, or leased to future growers. From an income perspective, hazelnuts reward patience with stability. In current US markets moving toward 2026, in-shell hazelnuts often sell in the range of $2 to $4 per pound wholesale, with higher prices for direct or specialty buyers. Shelled nuts command significantly more, often $8 to $12 per pound, depending on quality and handling. The key is that once trees mature, production becomes more predictable, and buyers tend to return year after year. Physically, hazelnuts suit aging bodies better than many tree crops. Pruning is manageable, harvest can be timed and paced, and much of the work happens at standing height. You're not bending constantly, and you're not racing weather the way annual crops demand. There's a quiet, emotional weight to this plant. You're planting something that may still be feeding people long after you're gone. For many seniors, that sense of continuity, of leaving something rooted and useful behind, is where the real value begins. Let's take a gentle pause here. If you're still with me, you're probably not chasing the loudest option. You're listening for the one that feels steady and right for this season of life. I'd love to know which of these plants is speaking to you so far, not because it sounds profitable, but because it feels manageable and meaningful. Drop that in the comments. And if you enjoy thoughtful conversations like this about growing something that lasts, consider subscribing so we can keep learning and building together, one quiet step at a time. Microgreens are proof that income doesn't have to come with sore knees or long days outside. These are grown at waist height, often indoors, on shelving or tabletops, with no digging, no heavy lifting, and no bending. For many people over 60, that alone changes what feels possible. You control the environment, the schedule, and the pace, even during winter or heat waves. Demand for microgreens keeps rising because they fit modern eating habits tied to convenience and health. Restaurants, meal prep services, senior living kitchens, and specialty grocers want fresh, local greens delivered consistently. Buyers don't want acres, they want reliability. That's where small growers thrive. You can harvest every 7 to 21 days, which means frequent, predictable income without waiting months for a payoff. Pricing is straightforward and transparent. In many US markets moving into 2026, common varieties like pea shoots, sunflower, radish and broccoli, microgreens sell wholesale for $20 to $40 per pound, with higher prices for specialty blends or living trays sold directly to kitchens. Even small weekly harvests add up when buyers reorder year-round. Microgreens are also forgiving. If your energy dips one week, the system waits. Watering is light, harvesting is done standing up, and packaging can be simple. Many seniors start with one rack, then add more only if it feels comfortable. There's no pressure to scale fast. What makes this plant emotionally powerful is how it respects your body. You're not proving toughness or pushing limits. You're building a future that fits the body you have now. Your body doesn't have to suffer for your future. It just has to show up, calmly and consistently. Garlic is one of the few plants where many growers don't wonder who will buy it. The buyers are often waiting before the first clove ever goes into the ground. Small food brands, local grocers, co-ops, and specialty distributors across the US are actively seeking domestic garlic grown by identifiable growers, not anonymous bulk suppliers. Traceability matters now more than ever, and garlic buyers want to know where their product came from and who grew it. This is where garlic shines for seniors. It's typically grown under informal contracts or standing agreements, meaning price and quantity are discussed ahead of time. That removes the stress of market guessing. You know how much to plant when you'll harvest, and roughly what you'll earn. For someone living on a fixed income or planning carefully, that predictability can feel like a deep exhale. In current US markets heading into 2026, quality hardneck garlic often sells wholesale in the range of $4 to $8 per pound, with premium or specialty varieties selling higher when sold directly to chefs or local retailers. Seed garlic also opens another quiet income stream, often selling for $10 to $20 per pound to other growers who want clean, reliable stock. Garlic fits naturally into a calm rhythm. Planting happens once, usually in fall. Through winter and spring, it grows steadily with minimal intervention. Harvest is scheduled, not rushed, and curing happens at your pace. Much of the work can be done standing or with raised beds, reducing strain on the body. There's something reassuring about growing a plant with a plan already in place. Garlic doesn't ask you to gamble or chase trends. It asks you to show up on time, do a few things well, and let consistency do the rest. For many seniors, that kind of certainty is exactly what makes gardening feel safe again. Aronia berry is one of the most resilient plants you can grow in today's unpredictable climate, and that resilience is exactly why buyers value it. It tolerates heat waves, late frosts, heavy rain, drought periods, and poor soil conditions better than most fruiting plants. While other crops fail or need constant adjustment, Aronia keeps producing with very little intervention. For seniors who are tired of replanting, rethinking, and starting over every season, that reliability brings real emotional relief. Emotionally, this matters more than people realize. Many older growers have lived through decades of changing weather and have watched gardens struggle despite their best efforts. Aronia removes much of that stress. It doesn't punish imperfect timing, missed watering, or sudden weather swings. It settles in, adapts, and continues growing. There's comfort in working with a plant that doesn't demand perfection. From a market perspective, Aronia is valued precisely because it's dependable. Food manufacturers, juice processors, and natural colorant producers want consistent supply year after year. In current US markets moving into 2026, frozen Aronia berries commonly sell wholesale in the range of $3 to $6 per pound, while dried berries can reach $10 to $18 per pound, depending on quality and sourcing. Buyers often pay a premium for growers who can deliver clean, uniform berries season after season. Aronia also fits aging bodies well. It's a perennial shrub, not a vine or tree that requires climbing or heavy pruning. Harvesting can be paced slowly, often over multiple days. Maintenance is minimal once established. This is the kind of plant that quietly reassures you. It forgives mistakes, adapts when conditions change, and keeps producing even when the year doesn't go as planned. For many seniors, that sense of steadiness is just as valuable as the income it brings. Saffron crocus is one of the rare plants where downsizing doesn't mean giving up earning potential. This crop thrives in containers, raised beds, patios, balconies, and narrow side yards, making it ideal for retirees who've moved into smaller homes or no longer want to manage large plots of land. You don't need acreage, you need intention. What makes saffron so powerful is how little space it requires relative to its value. Each flower produces just a few delicate threads, but those threads are among the most valuable spices in the world. In current US markets heading into 2026, high-quality domestic saffron often sells for $5 to $10 per gram wholesale, with retail prices climbing much higher when sold directly to chefs, specialty grocers, or local buyers who care about freshness and origin. Even a few dozen square feet can produce a meaningful seasonal return when managed well. For seniors, saffron fits naturally into a gentle rhythm. Planting happens once, the plants multiply quietly underground, and harvest is short and calm, usually a few weeks in fall. The work is light, done standing or seated, and doesn't require heavy tools or constant attention. After harvest, the plants rest on their own. Emotionally, saffron offers something deeper than income. It gives back a sense of freedom. You're not tied to land size, machinery, or long hours. You're working with something precise and valuable, on your own terms. For many older growers, that feeling, being able to grow something meaningful without being weighed down, is what makes this plant truly powerful. Lemon verbena is a plant that reaches people before it reaches markets. One brush of the leaves releases a clean, bright citrus scent that many seniors recognize instantly from old kitchens, summer drinks, or gardens that no longer exist except in memory. That sensory pull is exactly why chefs, tea blenders, craft beverage makers, and small skincare brands keep seeking it out. Flavor like this can't be replicated in factories, and buyers know it. What gives seniors a real advantage here is lived experience. Knowing when aroma is strongest, when leaves feel right to harvest, and how to dry gently without stripping oils isn't something learned from a quick tutorial. It comes from attention and patience. Lemon verbena rewards that kind of care. It grows well in containers, can be kept at waist height, and responds calmly to pruning. You don't rush it, you listen to it. Market demand is steady and niche-driven. In current US markets heading toward 2026, dried lemon verbena leaf commonly sells wholesale for $8 to $16 per pound, with higher prices when sold directly to tea companies or artisanal buyers who want consistent quality. Fresh bundles for chefs often sell for $3 to $6 per bunch during peak season. Small growers do well here because buyers prefer fragrance and story over volume. There's something deeply affirming about growing a plant tied to memory. It reminds you that what you've lived through, the tastes, the habits, the quiet knowledge, still matters. Lemon verbena doesn't just sell flavor, it sells familiarity. And for many people after 50, that connection between who you are and what you grow becomes the most valuable part of the harvest. Turmeric sits quietly at the center of the growing health economy, not because it's trendy, but because it has earned long-term trust. As more Americans focus on longevity, prevention, and natural living, buyers are moving away from flashy claims and toward ingredients they can source responsibly and trace back to real growers. Turmeric fits that shift perfectly. It's used by food makers, tea blenders, supplement manufacturers, and wellness brands that value consistency over hype. This is where seniors have a clear advantage. Trust isn't built overnight, and people over 60 understand that better than anyone. Buyers in the wellness space are increasingly cautious. They want growers who move carefully, document their process, and deliver the same quality every time. Seniors tend to excel here because they're not chasing viral moments. They're building relationships. That calm, steady approach is exactly what this market rewards. From an income perspective, turmeric grows slowly but reliably. In current US markets heading into 2026, fresh turmeric rhizomes often sell wholesale in the range of $4 to $7 per pound, while dried turmeric can bring $10 to $20 per pound, depending on cleanliness and handling. Many small growers also sell starter rhizomes locally, creating an additional income stream without expanding production. Turmeric can be grown in containers or raised beds, which makes it easier on the body. Harvesting is done at your pace, often once a year, and the plant tolerates gradual learning without severe penalties. There's no rush to scale quickly. What makes turmeric especially fitting at this stage of life is its rhythm. It aligns with patience, routine, and care. You're not making promises or selling cures. You're offering a trusted ingredient grown with intention. And in today's health economy, that kind of quiet reliability is exactly what keeps income flowing year after year. Switchgrass is almost never talked about in gardening videos, and that's exactly why it belongs here. It isn't pretty in the way herbs or berries. It doesn't photograph well, and it doesn't attract hobby growers. But over time, it has quietly become one of the most strategically valuable plants in the United States. It's used by land restoration programs, conservation agencies, biomaterials manufacturers, erosion control contractors, and energy-adjacent industries that plan years ahead instead of season by season. What makes switchgrass powerful is that it's grown for function, not fashion. Buyers don't want novelty, they want reliability. They need consistent fibre, predictable yields, and regionally adapted genetics. Many institutional buyers actively prefer small independent growers who can meet specifications without the overhead and inflexibility of industrial farms. Once approved, those relationships often last for decades. Financially, switchgrass is a long game. In current US markets moving toward 2026, baled switchgrass for restoration, biomass or fibre applications often sells in the range of $50 to $90 per tonne, with higher pricing for certified seed, native ecotype contracts, or specialty applications. The real value compounds over time. Once established, switchgrass can produce harvestable yields for 10 to 15 years with minimal inputs. Land planted to perennial grasses also becomes more attractive to conservation buyers and lease programs, quietly increasing its underlying value. This is where seniors shine. Switchgrass doesn't demand daily labour, heavy equipment, or constant decision-making. Establish it once, maintain it lightly, harvest on a schedule, and let it do what it does best. It tolerates weather swings, forgives missed timing, and improves soil rather than depleting it. There's no rush, no reinvention, no pressure to scale fast. This is the plant that doesn't need applause. It grows while you live your life. It earns while you rest. And for those willing to think in decades instead of seasons, it quietly becomes the kind of asset most people never realize was possible to grow. At this point, it's important to slow everything down and be honest about how wealth actually forms from plants like these. It doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't rely on luck. It comes from stacking a few simple things that quietly compound over time. Planting once and letting time work, building relationships where buyers return instead of renegotiating every season, and choosing patience over pressure. This is why the word millionaire should be understood as gradual, not dramatic. No single harvest changes everything. What changes things is consistency layered year after year, until income feels less like a gamble and more like a rhythm you can count on. Skepticism is healthy here. If you've lived long enough, you've seen promises come and go. The difference with plants is that they don't lie. They either grow or they don't. And when you choose steady systems instead of shortcuts, peace replaces stress surprisingly fast. That calm advantage is something younger growers often don't have yet. Seniors do. Years of lived experience build habits that matter deeply in gardening. Noticing small changes, keeping routines, waiting instead of forcing outcomes. These traits don't fade with age, they sharpen. What society sometimes labels as slowing down is actually precision. Gardening at this stage isn't retreating from relevance, it's reclaiming it. There's power in showing up every day without needing attention. Elias often reflects that after 50, the biggest shift wasn't physical, but mental. Decisions became quieter. Fewer mistakes were made out of urgency. The garden responded to that steadiness almost immediately, and that brings everything back to what really matters now. Success doesn't have to mean expansion or constant growth. It can mean predictable income, a sense of purpose and pride in something you've built with your own hands. Starting doesn't require a full plan or perfect conditions. One plant, one bed, one season of paying attention. Sometimes it's not that it's too late, it's that life has finally become quiet enough to hear what actually works. If this time together felt grounding, consider liking the video and staying connected by subscribing. This channel isn't about chasing numbers, it's about growing something that feels right. I'd love to know how this made you feel, not what you want to earn, but what you want your days to feel like moving forward. Until next time, keep your hands in the soil, your future steady, and your days golden.